Good evening, Belize, and welcome to XTV's news broadcast for Tuesday, March 4, 2025. Making the headlines tonight, CCJ denies Jeremy Enriquez special leave for appeal. Former foreign minister says Belize is carefully assessing its foreign policy. And Plus TV journalist notified that officer filed report against him. We take our first break and return with the news in detail.
Make light work light.
Welcome back with your news. I am Drea Espinosa. On Tuesday, February 18, High Court Justice Tawanda Hundera denied an application for an interim injunction filed by Jeremy Enriquez and others to stop the March 12 general elections based on the claim that it would be unconstitutional as it would violate several of the claimant's rights. Enriquez attorney, senior counsel Anan Ramlogan, had filed an appeal at the Belize Court of Appeal, and orders were made Monday for submissions and evidence to be filed during the course of the week and next week. However, bearing in mind the limited time, they are working with Ramlogan on the same Monday, March 3rd, filed an application for special leave to take the matter straight to the Caribbean Court of Justice, our apex court. Well, today the CCJ ruled that the matter would be decided without a hearing and denied the application for special leave to appeal, deeming that it was without merit. We spoke with the Attorney General's legal representative, Senior Counsel Eamon Courtney. Courtney gave his opinion that this was the last hope to stop the election, given the timelines.
Court of Appeal gave directions for the hearing of the appeal. It was very obvious because of his impertinence and impudence that Mr. Ramlogan did not like the way the court granted its order. Without saying anything to anybody, we received yesterday evening an application by him for special leave directly to the CCJ. Today, the CCJ dismissed it, saying that it was absolutely without merit. The point of the matter is this. The matter is before the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal has not even grappled with it. Yet, because it gave directions that were not to his liking in terms of timing, he thought he would go to the Caribbean Court of Justice. In my opinion, it's a clear case of what lawyers call forum shopping. If you don't like this court, you run to the next one. And it was transparent and obvious and entirely without merit. In my opinion, it is the last hope. There are directions given by the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal is going to determine when it's going to entertain the case. There are many difficulties which I won't go into at this stage with that appeal. I think it is misconceived, and we will deal with that when the time is right. But I do not believe that the Court of Appeal is going to fall for what Mr. Ramlogan is attempting to do. Mr. Ramlogan has not provided a single case where any Commonwealth court has stopped an election after the House has been dissolved. There is none, and there have been attempts. And I repeat, the courts have said, if you waited, which is what Mr. Enriquez did, unfortunately, until 1 minute past midnight to file your claim, and the Prime Minister dissolves the National Assembly, whatever issue you have, we will deal with that when the election is finished.
Courtney was asked about what he believes costs will look like in this case.
As a general rule, in public law and constitutional law cases, the state does, if it wins, does not usually get costs unless the court is persuaded that the claimants acted wholly unreasonably, that they are persisting in circumstances where the law is obviously against them or the facts are against them, and they are still taking up court time. Then an application can be made by the state to say, listen, in this particular case, there was some unreasonable behavior, and we're asking the court to exercise its discretion. I have no instructions at this stage from the Attorney General to say, go after anybody for costs, go after Mr. Enriquez for costs. I will say this. The application to the Caribbean Court of Justice was, to quote the Caribbean Court of Justice, without merit. That application was conceived of by Mr. Ramlogan, not by Mr. Enriquez. There is something called wasted costs, which focuses not on the client, but on the lawyer. And I think that that is something that needs to be looked at in this particular matter.
And while Courtney spoke scathingly about Ramlogan, he says he himself attempted to leapfrog an application years ago and failed. For his part, Enriquez remains strong-willed and says they will continue to pursue the substantive matter with vigor.
Learned also that the inherent esteem that people have, especially if it is rooted in a good cause, it continues to burn within because you want to see good for everyone. You get to a place where you despise seeing people taking advantage, you despise seeing society descending in its values, and you see the Constitution consistently violated. And so the steam burns from within because we want to see good for all Belizeans. If we sit by and just continue to observe in apathy, then who do we turn to? What happens when even all the leaders, key leaders in our governance system failed us? We wrote a letter to the Governor General to advise and warn that we're faced with this crisis. That didn't work out. We wrote the Prime Minister, we wrote the Attorney General, we wrote the Speaker of the House, and so the question remains, who do people turn to for justice when their constitutional rights are consistently violated? Where do we turn to? And so the fire burns within to continue to find ways to ensure that justice for all Belizean people and that our elections are fair for all Belizeans, for the benefit of Belizeans.
Enriquez is receiving assistance from at least one Belizean in the diaspora for the fundraising efforts for legal costs and noted that they are currently at about 6,000 Belize dollars. The members of the Belize Peace Movement, BPM, who are challenging the constitutionality of Section 1 of the Representation of the People Act, ROPA, were back in court today. They argued that the 31 divisions as outlined in the schedule are severely malapportioned, contrary to the Constitution. It turns out that the claimants face some setbacks and it is unlikely their matter would be heard before the election schedule for March 12. Attorney for the Attorney General of Belize, Senior Counsel Eamon Courtney, shared what transpired in court.
There was an order by Justice Ondora that the record be prepared and filed, and it was not filed. It is 852 pages, and it was sent to me electronically at 4:37 yesterday. The judge indicated this morning that he had not read it. He had not even received it. And Ms. Sharon Pitts for the claimants apologized. And the judge gave her time to file it. He asked her to explain the urgency, and she gave her explanation that the elections are coming. It was pointed out to her that her clients are not asking the court for any urgent relief, any interim relief, any injunction. So what is the rush? So if you ask me my view, I would say to you that we don't know when we're going to actually physically get the record of 852 pages. I assume later today, tomorrow, I don't know. But when we get it, the judge will have to make a determination as to what is the urgency where you're not asking for, say, an injunction or something. It's just pure legal arguments. There is no application in that case to stop the election.
Yeah, it's likely they would have been depending on the other one to be successful.
Right.
Last week, the news broke that Belize has withdrawn from the Hague group, which was formed originally by 9 countries to advocate in support of Palestine. Former Foreign Minister Eamon Courtney, who remains as a point person for Belize in the ICJ case involving Guatemala's territorial claim, was asked if this move will count in our favor there.
I don't believe that there will be any evidence before the ICJ as to who is in the Hague group or who is not in the Hague group. I don't think membership in the Hague group gives rise to any legal issue, or non-membership should give rise to any legal issue. If membership of a group like the Hague group influences judges, then in my opinion, they are not independent. So I do not believe that there would be any deleterious effect on our case, whether or not we are a member of the Hague group.
Courtney was also asked if it was pertinent for Belize to leave the Hague group, given the heavy pro-Israel shift of the U.S. under President Trump.
I would say that, like every country in the world, particularly those in this part of the world, Belize is undergoing a review of its foreign policy in relation to changes not only in the United States, but changes in Europe as well. I know the foreign minister is actively looking at different aspects, different issues, looking at the position of Belize. He and I have spoken about it from time to time. So I know that the ministry is deeply looking and analyzing the position. All I would say, Jules, and I would say no more about this, there are people who are saying quite a lot right now about certain decisions that the government is taking in foreign affairs. And if you look at things in isolation, you may say, I think we should do X. But if you look at that very same issue and you ask, well, what is the consequence of doing X on Y, Z, A, B, C, other things that the government is doing or the government is pursuing? When I was ministry, and I'm sure it is the same now, you have to start first with your principles. Secondly, what is your national interest? And that requires careful calibration where you have a world that is in turmoil. I have, based on my experience, full confidence in our foreign service officers, our minister, our CEO, in the ability to analyze the different issues and the implications for Belize, consult with regional governments, consult with friends of Belize when coming to make decisions in the interest of Belize. So I am not at all worried, and I am also not at all concerned if we take a new and different position on a particular issue because circumstances have changed.
On Monday, Plus TV journalist Louis L.J. Wade III informed he intended to file a report against the police officer who aggressed him last week while covering an incident. When he went to the police station today, he was notified that the officer himself had filed a report stating that it was Wade who assaulted him and that a warrant would be issued for his arrest. On an editorial note here at Creme News XTV, we consider that this is an intimidation tactic and beyond that, a further infringement on the work of the individual reporter with wider implications for the general media, and will keep following it up. After the break, human rights advocate questions Elections and Boundaries Commission's approach to requests for eligible inmates to vote. Stay with us.
Our people are working.
Yaya Marin Coleman, chairperson of the UBAD Educational Foundation, today carried out a 4-hour protest walk to continue shedding light on her advocacy for the Ministry of Education and now also the Ministry of Labor to work with the UEF to put together a natural hair law that would be applicable to the workplace and schools. She walked from Vista Del Mar to the Ministry of Education's main office on North Front Street in Belize City. The establishment is just a stone's throw away from the tourist village. Marin Coleman has been applying for a permit to conduct her protest on Tuesdays in front of the ministry, but despite many follow-ups, she has not received it. Today, when she had finished her protest walk, she gave Creme News XTV an interview and took some photos. She repeated the reason for UEF's campaign and shared details of other actions being carried out.
This is for our Belizean. UBAD Educational Foundation advocate for African descendants racialized as black people. So we have one right for wear locks, bantu knots, natural hair, regardless of what texture, if it curly, wavy, kinky, however you want to describe it. The state, the government of Belize has been in violation of the Constitution of Belize for not enforcing that law. The law done today. So every time you hear, for example, and these are just stories that make the news, of a student denied access to education and discriminated because of their hairstyle or their hair texture, that is negligence at the state not enforcing the Belize Constitution. Now, a lot different from our policy, because one policy could be the goal of our administration, and they have procedures or policies, and they may need one law to enforce the policy. But in this case with Belize, we already have one law that is not being enforced in places of employment and in schools in Belize. So the Ministry of Education gave one verbal agreement that after the general election, which is Wednesday, March 12th, they're willing to sit down with UEF and really bring one team with way, and we want to have one draft law, because even though they have the Constitution, we specifically want one Belize natural hair law with severe penalties for violators, and very detailed reporting, the whole nine. We have international guidance for it.
The Elections and Boundaries Commission, EBC, had indicated it was receiving the communication from managing member of the Justice for Humans Project, Attorney Michelle Trapp, for authorities to give effect to the law and allow qualified inmates to vote. Via their attorney, Marine Parade Chambers, the commission responded on March 3rd, asking Trapp to identify all the inmates whom she claims to represent, along with proof of their voter registration status and their court and criminal history. A point made is that someone disqualified to vote because they had to serve a sentence of more than 12 months must reapply for registration after serving their sentence. In her following response the following day, Trapp first expresses disappointment that the commission retained outside counsel to respond to their letter, which she says merely stated the law. She then notes that the signed letter, not as an attorney, but rather as a member of the Justice for Humans Project, which makes her a human rights defender in this instance. She added that they have advocated for prisoners who contact them for assistance, and they have done so free of cost. Trapp then reiterates their position that all eligible prisoners ought to be allowed to vote. A policeman was assaulted in Dangriga with a pint bottle. Surveillance footage circulating on social media shows how the incident unfolded on the veranda of Chill and Ice Bar. The officer is seen standing in between two men who seem to be in a back and forth with him. When one of the men says the officer should just be hit with a pint, the other man puts that into motion. At the precise moment, the officer had taken out his phone and was looking down. However, because the assault happened at close range, he reacted quickly enough to put up his hands to avoid being hit to the head. The man then walks off and is followed by the police. He was arrested and charged and was given bail upon arraignment. On Monday, The Commissioner of Police, Chester Williams, spoke of the need to show support to police officers who are disrespected while on duty.
We saw a situation in Dangriga recently where a police officer on duty was hit in the face with a battle, breaking the battle in the officer's face. These are things that shows gross disrespect to the police. And when it do occurs, we have to stand by our officers and support them in doing what is right. So that person with the incident in Dangriga has also been arrested and charged, and that matter is before the court as well.
A young man identified as 28-year-old Sean Toledano drowned Monday during a fishing expedition in the Doubloon Bank Lagoon in the Orange Walk district. Police were called to the area where they retrieved the body in the early evening hours. His mother, Odelia Toledano, recounted that she advised him not to go out to fish at such a late hour, but he said he was going with others, including with his brother-in-law. She shared that she was sitting down at around 5 p.m. when she had a premonition that something was wrong. An hour later, they got the news. She shared that he was very close to her and was a wonderful son who will be greatly missed. A shooting incident occurred inside the Michael Finnegan Market on West Collett Canal in Belize City at around 11:30 this morning. According to reports, police officers were in the area when they noticed a man who was wanted by police riding toward the market. They canvassed the area and then noticed that the individual, identified as Edward Soledano, was hiding under the counter inside one of the food stalls. The police officers then attempted to detain Soledano, and during a struggle, Soledano grabbed for his firearm that he had in his pants waist. The officer then fired a single shot near Soledano's feet, which prompted him to hurl his firearm on the roof of the stall. The man was subsequently transported to the Carl Huchner Memorial Hospital, where he was treated and released. The man's mother, who was nearby, alleges that this was the second time police shot her son. She alleges police found the gun at the market and wanted to pin it on her son. After the break, San Pedro tour guide found not guilty in fatal boat accident of tourists. Stay tuned.
There are more
At the Belize High Court on Monday, San Pedro tour guide 33-year-old Jesse James Smith was acquitted of a charge of death by careless conduct in relation to an incident which occurred on February 14, 2023, off the coast of San Pedro. The trial started a week ago. Smith was the captain of a boat that fatally hit a 17-year-old U.S. tourist, Logan Pratt, who was swimming in an unmarked area in a known boat traffic zone. Following the incident, Smith admitted to hitting the teenager, but unintentionally, so as he said he could not see her. Tests later revealed that Smith had no drugs or alcohol in his body at the time, and it was determined he was not speeding. Smith was charged 6 months following the incident. Smith was represented by attorney Audrey Matura, who told the media that their defense was centered on inconsistencies from the witnesses of the prosecution, as what they said in court differs from what was told to the police during the investigation. Matura also said that the mother of the deceased told the court that Pratt was standing in shallow water and that Smith could have seen her. The results of the postmortem showed she suffered injuries in parts of her body which would not have been possible had she been standing, as was claimed. On Monday afternoon around 3:30, 4 men staged a robbery on a Western Dairies truck as it was traveling towards the Burrowboom Road. According to reports, the men stopped the truck pretending to make a purchase. Once stopped, the men pulled out firearms and pointing them at the driver and his co-worker. The employees were also repeatedly punched. One of the culprits then went into the truck and stole $4,737 in different denominations. He then stole the driver's iPhone. The men then fled in a white car that was parked nearby. Police were alerted and were able to quickly intercept the car near mile 4 of the George Price Highway. The men, who are all known to police, were subsequently detained for questioning. Police were able to recover the stolen money as well as the driver's cell phone. However, when police opened the phone, they discovered that the driver was in communication with one of the alleged culprits. Police now believe it may have been an inside job. The driver was also detained for questioning. 4 months after fleeing to the United States after being freed from a murder charge when the prosecution dropped the case against him, 22-year-old Khalif Rahim Alexander Caceres was deported. He arrived early last week and was remanded to the Belize Central Prison after he was denied asylum under the Trump administration. Caceres was remanded until May 19 for failure to appear for a court date for an inferior appeal. Caceres had been accused of the murder of Gerald Tillett Jr., the son of former George Street Gang leader Gerald Shiny Tillett Sr. 46-year-old Josue Sick was found guilty Friday of the sexual assault of a 5-year-old girl. He appeared before Chief Magistrate Jayani Wagadapola. Sick was arraigned in December 2023 after the father of the victim reported to police that he had left his 3 daughters in the care of Sick, whom he considered a friend. When he returned in the morning, he found Sick lying on the floor next to his daughters and observed that the underwear for the victim was pulled down. After making other observations, he called the police. Sick's attorney, senior counsel Simeon Sampson, is asking for a non-custodial sentence. The minimum sentence is 7 years in prison. A 19-year-old who was accused of fatally shooting a businesswoman as she closed her establishment in 2022 in Ladyville has been acquitted of murder. Dennis Jimenez on Friday appeared before High Court Justice Derek Sylvester. The Crown had to enter a nolle pros after the main witness recanted from a statement entered into evidence in which he admitted seeing the shooter. After he told the court he saw nothing on the day of the incident and that he could not identify the shooter. Justice Sylvester ruled that neither the caution statement nor notes of interview could be used against Jimenez. He was represented by attorney Leroy Banner. And Miss World Belize 2024 is 23-year-old Shayari Morataya of Belize City. She will be competing at Miss World 2025, which is scheduled to take place on May 31 in India. Morataya is a health and wellness advocate, having volunteered with the Belize Kidney Association of Belize for 3 years now. She said part of her platform will be to encourage youths to be educated on kidney health.
I started volunteering for the Kidney Association of Belize for almost 3 years now. I've been a volunteer for 3 years now, and I've been a board member for 2. And I just really wanted to join it because I wanted to make that change in my community when it came to the healthcare aspect, because I know, like you mentioned, us as youths, we don't really pay much attention to that. And I think it is very important that we do. So, um, so yeah, that is what I decided to make this as my platform, because while being a volunteer for the Kidney Association, I've been able to witness firsthand what these patients go through. I mean, dialysis is not an easy thing, and it's something that you have to do 3 times a week. So it's very challenging, it's very expensive. So it's very important for us to be aware and to prevent, by all means, being able to reach those last stages of kidney health. As Miss World Belize, as the current Miss World Belize 2024, I am hosting a awareness program for both high school and primary school students, so that we could get our youths engaged in this for this program as well, so that they understand the importance of taking care of your kidneys. I always tell my peers, especially now, that we don't really pay much attention to it, but we even have young kids doing dialysis. So we have kids at the age of 13 doing dialysis, and that you wouldn't even know that that's going on, you know? So it's very important for us to spread the message, to drink enough water, to move our bodies, to eat a healthy diet, which I know sometimes is really hard for us to do, especially as young persons, but it is very, it's a priority that we need to look out for.
During Kidney Awareness Month in March, Morataya will work along with the Kidney Association of Belize and her pageant organization, the ILS Phoenix, to hold a pledge for kidney health.
We will have a pledge for kidney health, which will be taking place at the health fair, or you can make donations at the Kidney Association's bank account. This is a joint collaboration between the Kidney Association of Belize and the ILS Phoenix Miss World Belize. So we welcome the public, to give a little back to our communities by giving and pledging for kidney health, which in the end will benefit all of us.
And with that, we have come to the end of our newscast. A repeat can be viewed on the station later tonight at 9 and again tomorrow at midday. Join us again tomorrow for another news broadcast. I am Drea Espinosa. Have a safe and enjoyable evening.